Hey there, today I have an order summary video, and in this video I'm going to review the order that I placed with Mile High Comics. This is the companion video to the comic book unboxing video number 196. So I'm going to go through the spreadsheet and kind of break down the order. This was an order that I probably, I don't know, I probably made it seem as though I regret ordering the books. I think some of the regret starts to seep in when I start to grade the books, and I'll show you kind of how the books ended up grading out. Of course, if they all were like 9/8 candidates, then I would have no regrets, but I think that the main thing is really comparing the types of books that I was buying from Mile High Comics at the time, and then where I had shifted to get books like that at other places, whether it be eBay, Infinity Comics on Hip Comic, or other sellers. There are other sources now that I don't want to say are better, but it's maybe a lower risk for about the same reward, or maybe just slightly less reward. There are certainly opportunities at Mile High Comics where it's a high risk, high reward situation, but I just don't feel like I have a lot of the capital to take those sorts of risks. And I'm talking about like buying Silver Age near mint books for $400 or $500 and trying to get them in a 9.2 or a 9.4, and they might be worth $800, something like that. I just don't feel like I'm really into that sort of game. And so looking at something like Infinity Comics, I look at that as much of a low risk, low to medium reward, and in some rare cases, high reward. So just trying to balance risk reward, and that's where I'm just kind of like, I think I bought medium risk, low reward books. I don't know. I'm overthinking it at this point. I'd rather just go ahead and show you the spreadsheet itself. So then you can kind of form your own opinion as far as like, was it worth it to buy these books? And I kind of titled the thumbnail around like did this speculation age well is kind of the point of this. To go over the details here, it's an 8-book order from Mile High Comics. I did in fact place the order on August 7th, 2023, and just opened it here in April 2024. And that is part of why I'm taking a little break from buying and bringing more comics into my collection, is because I'd rather take a look at what I have already purchased and make sure that I open up orders and do exactly what I'm doing right now, which is going through the details, making sure they're fully cataloged, categorized, graded, and then I'm making decisions on them. And I really have a number of orders still to go through and just want to focus on that. This order, I was invoiced $188.40. And again, thinking about that much money and kind of what I could do with like a $200 budget at an auction, I think I would be more strategic and successful at auction than doing this. Maybe it would end up being the same, but I feel like I would be more equipped and experienced to get a better outcome through Infinity Comics or some of the other sellers, or even eBay to some degree. And you can kind of see how the book's graded out. I swear, it's almost automatic. It's almost scary at this point, no matter how many books I order, no matter if they're near mint, very fine. 9.2 is pretty much what I can expect now from Mile High Comics. And so that's where you have to factor in, if you're buying a near mint book, pretty much expect it to be a 9.2. And then do your evaluation on what you're going to do with that 9.2. Do you assume it can be pressed? That's not always the case. Do you think that you could get it slabbed as a 9.2? And if so, what is your additional investment? But man, it is almost like clockwork now. I can count on the average of the orders being around that 9.2. The reason this is just a touch above 9.2 is because Something is Killing the Children, number 22, ended up grading out as a 9.8. That was that one per store that I took a chance on because I don't think that they label their variants, I don't want to say correctly, but maybe appropriately. They do not indicate that they are retailer incentives or there's some sort of variant that requires some sort of purchasing, like a one per store. Obviously, it requires you to have a store. I don't know if Mile High got 3 copies because they have 3 stores. I don't know how all that works, but it ends up to me being about a 1 in 25 in terms of scarcity. And that one graded out a 9.8. There was one little tiny issue at the bottom of that book, but really minor. It was very clean. Love that matte paper style cover on the Boom Studios books. So that was another reason why I wanted to buy it, is because I was trusting the paper quality to hold up, and it did. Four of the books got nines, and those were the older books. Werewolf by Night, number 12, got a nine. So did, New Mutants, number 9 from 1983, but the other two 1970s books, House of Secrets 120 got a nine. 144 got a 9. The Tomb of Dracula 27, I was on the fence. It was very close. I almost gave that one a 9, but I did bump it to 9.2 because the spine had one hairline color breaking tick. Otherwise, it looked great. The corners were just a touch away from being super sharp. And then the back had a little bit of dirt to it and maybe some creasing that I think could be pressed out. I feel like that Tomb 27 is probably the potential gem in this order, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. The other interesting thing was that new X-Men number 114. I bought it as a very fine, and you can see here as I move over to show you the total cost, $6.75 for that book. I thought that at the time when that book was being speculated on, to get it for $7, I thought was a really good deal. Cover price fair market value on that is $12, and even in a 9.2 has a CGC value of 55. In column V, you'll see the current CGC fair market values. Again, nothing all that interesting, nothing really surprising or outstanding, or maybe surprising in a negative way, is that one per store Jenny Frison variant. Only $49 in that for a 9.8, and because I spent almost 13 for it, then the math doesn't quite work out. Where if you're just kind of ballparking about $30 to send to CGC, you're kind of under at that point, because you'd have to sell it for 49 and then take a bunch of fees. So that's kind of unfortunate, but still, I wanted to take a chance. It was really more of an experimental purchase to kind of see what the ratio or one per store variants look like on Mile High. So I kind of proved that out. From a raw book perspective, oddly enough, $46 for that, $49 9.8. Those values don't make a lot of sense to me, but they are what they are. Captain America 5, if you notice, that was the other high-grade copy, 9.6, and I don't believe that can be bumped to a 9.8. On the back of the book, there is a scratch that it's completely straight and horizontal. It looks like a printing scratch, but I've had books come back from CGC where it does look like it could have happened during manufacturing, but like when you see those thin scratches across the book, they do ding you for that, because it's not clear if that was manufacturing or not. Like bindery tearing, they will let that go, even though it's like splitting the paper. But like a super, super thin scratch, that they ding you on. So I just left it as a 9.6. Book looks great otherwise. Not a lot of value there. Really cool Selene cover. Selene's first appearance, New Mutants number 9. Again, you could argue it's a dollar bin book. $6 fair market value. Gave that one a 9.0. $42 in a 9.0. So not too bad, but ended up spending $15 to get it. So adding up my total cost, when I factor in the $6 of insurance, it does match my invoice price of $188.40. But as we move over to the raw value add and the CGC potential value add, if I were to get these books graded, you could see it's a negative outcome. You could say it was a wash. It was an even. I'm not looking to buy books to kind of just even it out. I'm looking to add either raw value potential or some sort of new ceiling to the value for these books if I were to get them graded. And these didn't quite work out. Moving all the way over to the final decision and kind of how these decisions were made, I have 3 books that are worthy of pressing. I'll go through them. X-Men 114, I don't understand the very fine designation. I gave it a 9.2. It has a little dirt or scuffing on the front and the back, and has a stacking crease. I see a lot of those books, very common, easily improved with a press or a clean-in press. So I really felt the very fine designation was kind of harsh by Mile High Comics. And you can see in column AN, AM, and AL, where I have grade +1, grade +2, and grade +3. That is, as you would imagine, what is the value if it was a CGC of 1 grade up, 2 grades up, or 3 grades up. So this is the CGC value. And you can see a 9.8 if we're going from, it's currently a 9.2, so a 9.4, 62, 9.6, 81, 9.8, 120. It is worth it to send that in, particularly because I bought in at around $6, $7 for that book. So I'm not saying it's a 9.8 candidate, but with a clean and press, it could be. But even if it came back as a 9.4 or 9.6, it's a nice value add there. So that's part of the logic behind the decision column. The other two press opportunities, Werewolf by Night number 12, I do think that could be improved. So that's going to land somewhere in like the $150 to $180 range. I don't see it getting improved all the way up to a 9.6. I could be wrong, but I feel like it probably could be buffed into a 9.2 or 9.4. The other interesting one, as I mentioned, Tomb of Dracula 27 might be the gem. As I gave it a 9.2, I struggled with a 9.0 or a 9.2. And the gloss on the cover is there. Like it's really kind of a striking copy. The more I looked at it, and I just felt like if I were a grader, it almost feels newer than it should be. And then there are some smudging or dirt or just kind of the age of the book has just accumulated some things on the back that could just be dry cleaned and buffed out, and then has a little bit of some creasing on the back here or there. Just very minor color breaks with that one hairline tick. So it could be something that would get a pass where that one tick does not pull the book down. And I mean, a 9.8, there it is, $1,200 for that book. I am not saying that this book is a 9.8 candidate, but because of the potential there, I have to risk it and send it in for pressing. So that's probably what I'll end up doing with these three books. What I'm trying to do here too is pre-1975 books I'm considering sending to the Comic Doctor, and then everything else would go to Palm Beach. Not because I trust or don't trust one or the other. It's just a way to kind of separate the books. And also the older books, I'm not necessarily looking to do anything with them. I'm not in a hurry. And so there are those sorts of books and scenarios that I'm sending to the Comic Doctor because his turnaround time is about 3 to 4 months door to door. All right, not exactly sure. I think my camera froze, so it's probably best that I just end the video right there. But you can kind of see the order summary and what I'm talking about just in terms of timing and acting on an impulse and then just kind of waiting it out and see if you feel the same sometime later. There's something about comic books and the art and the story and speculation and everything that kind of comes along with it where you just feel like I'm just caught up in the moment. And then sometime later, maybe that moment passes and it not just passes for you, but passes for everybody. I mean, the basic premise here is I was targeting a couple of books based on the character Celine, which I don't really think anybody's really talking about right now or has any interest in. So it's quite interesting because I could find books with Celine on the cover very easily. They're very common today, but 8 months ago, for some reason, I felt like I had to have them. As with most orders I place, it's almost like the book that I wasn't targeting that may end up being the gem, and that is that Tomb of Dracula book. I mean, I was aware of the potential value, and that's why I decided to pick it up. But then after grading it and looking at it, I mean, I still think realistically it probably maxes a 9.4, but depending on the work that maybe the Comic Doctor can do on the book, who knows? Maybe anything is possible, and it could get the 9.8. Let me know what you think about this particular order, the fact that it was kind of a delayed unboxing of 8 months. I have more of these, some that are, I'm embarrassed to say, coming up on 2 years old. And that should tell you something. And I have kind of a premise and a theory around why it took me that long to unbox some of those orders as well. So be on the lookout for those. Thanks for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.